Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Explainer. Today, we're zeroing in on a process that is absolutely crucial to our daily operations here. We're pulling this straight from the M&A Auto Repair Staff Training Guide, specifically Release 18.2. So, whether you're a brand new service advisor just getting your feet wet, or a veteran registered inspector who's been doing this for years, the goal of this explainer is super simple. We are going to completely master the exact step-by-step workflow for Maryland state inspections. We're talking 100% compliance, total precision, and building unbreakable trust with literally every single customer who pulls their car into our bays.
But before we get completely bogged down in the nuts and bolts of the software portal and the shop floor, I really want you to stop and think about a high-stakes question. What is the single golden rule of a Maryland state inspection right here at M&A? Think about it, because honestly, if you get this wrong, our entire compliance structure basically just falls apart.
Well, the answer is what our handbook calls the independence rule. You've absolutely got to remember that an inspector acts purely as an agent of state minimum safety standards. That means your official inspection result is completely, 100% independent of the shop's repair sales. You can never, and I mean literally never, condition an inspection result on a customer buying their repairs from M&A. They are two totally separate decisions.
Okay, so let's dive right into this, shall we? To make sure you've got a totally bulletproof workflow that keeps us both compliant and efficient, we're going to break the handbook down into 6 key parts. We'll start with the rule of independence, then we'll walk through proper vehicle intake and identification. From there, we'll cover the actual inspection sequence, how to clearly communicate a pass or fail, those incredibly strict re-inspection procedures, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with record keeping and compliance.
Starting us off with Part 1. The rule of independence, separating results from sales.
You see, compliance doesn't just suddenly begin when a vehicle rolls onto the lift. Not at all. It starts right up at the front desk. From the very split second a customer walks through the doors and talks to a service advisor, this independence rule has got to be crystal clear in all of our communication. The front office totally sets the tone for the whole experience. And the handbook actually explicitly dictates this mindset. It says, right there in black and white, the customer may choose where repairs are performed. So, if an inspector fails a vehicle, a service advisor cannot tell the customer that the repairs must be done at M&A. Period. This is a recurring theme you'll see throughout your training. Our job is just to provide accurate safety findings, not to corner a customer into a repair order.
Moving right along to Part 2, Vehicle Intake and Identification, starting the record.
So the handbook actually outlines several really strict operating rules for this phase, and a massive one is this: always search before creating. We've got to avoid duplicate records. When you're checking a customer in for an inspection, you must verify the VIN. That is your primary identifier, and you've got to make sure it decodes properly. After that, you confirm the year, make, model, and the mileage. Oh, and if the customer has a specific concern, write it down in their exact own words. Don't go trying to translate their complaint into some technical diagnosis just yet. Finally, make sure you clearly explain the diagnostic and inspection fees before you ever ask for their signature on that intake form.
All right, Part 3, the inspection sequence, objective evaluation.
Now we're back in the bays. According to the handbook, the workflow strictly mandates that the vehicle is assigned to a qualified registered inspector. Nobody else can perform this work. Got it? Then, the inspector actually verifies the VIN and mileage again, just to be absolutely sure. From there, you've got to complete every single item on the checklist. The manual doesn't mess around here. Do not take shortcuts, even if a vehicle looks brand new or like it just had some work done. Every required field gets filled out, and you have to take objective measurements and photos for any failures or recommendations.
Now, what's really interesting and honestly kind of funny is how the handbook specifically calls out a good technician note versus a bad one. Look at the weak note, needs brakes. I mean, come on. That is entirely subjective, gives us zero actual evidence, and honestly tells the customer nothing. But then look at the required note. Front pads measure 2 millimeters, front rotors have deep scoring, and measure below service specification. Bam! It gives exact measurements, tells us the condition, and leaves absolutely zero room for confusion. That level of detail, it is absolutely mandatory.
And while you're busy documenting all of this in the M&A software, you really need to understand a huge operational limitation from the training. The M&A inspection PDF that gets generated by our portal, that is strictly an internal shop working record. It is absolutely not the official Maryland State Police Inspection certificate. You have to follow the approved state process to actually issue the official certification. Definitely don't get those two mixed up.
Which brings us to Part 4, Communicating Pass or Fail, Plain English Explanations.
This one is super important for our service advisors.
The handbook demands that you explain any technical findings in plain English first. You want to deliver the news, good or bad, without any pressure at all. You only dive into the deep, complicated technical details when the customer specifically asks for them. Remember, the whole goal here is separating that official inspection result from our repair estimates to keep the independence rule totally intact. In fact, the handbook literally hands you the exact script to use when you're delivering a safety-critical finding. It says to tell the customer, based on its current condition, we consider this an immediate safety concern. You are free to decide where the repair is performed. I highly recommend memorizing that. Using this exact phrasing protects you, it protects M&A, and it totally empowers the customer.
Okay, on to part 5. Strict reinspection procedures, the hard limits.
So re-inspections are a massive compliance checkpoint for the state, and the rules here are practically set in stone. A limited re-inspection must be performed by the exact same registered inspection mechanic who did the original check, and it has to be at the exact same authorized station. No exceptions. You can't just swap mechanics halfway through, mostly because we haven't quite figured out how to clone our technicians yet. And during this phase, you are only inspecting the previously identified defective items, along with any visually obvious new defects that might have popped up.
But wait, to even qualify for this limited reinspection, the vehicle has to meet 2 very hard limits. The first is time. The customer has exactly 30 days from the date of the original inspection to bring that vehicle back. Not 31, not 32, 30.
The second hard limit, mileage. The vehicle must have been driven under 1,000 miles since the original inspection was recorded.
So the really crucial point here is this. If the returning vehicle is outside of that 30-day window, or if it's been driven 1,000 miles or more, the limited reinspection window instantly slams shut. You literally cannot bend this rule. You have to treat it as a completely new inspection right from scratch and just start the whole process over.
And finally, we arrive at part 6, record keeping and compliance, protecting the shop.
Guys, your documentation has to be completely pristine. According to the manual, you must retain all records strictly in accordance with current Maryland State Police and ASCD rules. And here's a critical internal control. Your inspection records must be kept completely separate from standard mechanical repairs. These official records have to be highly secure, but also readily available if the station gets audited. At the end of the day, good solid documentation is what proves your integrity.
Ultimately, sticking to these documented rules, without making up our own outside parameters, is exactly what upholds M&A's stellar reputation. Compliance isn't just a bunch of annoying red tape. It's the literal foundation of trust, accuracy, and true professional integrity in the auto repair industry.
So, I want to leave you with this final vital question to really chew on as you go about your day, whether you're out on the shop floor or up at the front counter. Are we strictly following the independence rule on every single vehicle that rolls into our bays? If you truly master these handbook workflows, the answer is always going to be yes. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, everyone, and I'll catch you on the next one.